Okay, so mic's still working. I'm pretty sure that I've gotten a little better at not hitting that. So I'm gonna get right into the update. Sorry, I need to take a drink. So there isn't really much to update in terms of the AI. I've been pretty busy with a lot of schoolwork and projects, um, and so I might actually post a picture of the project me and my friends made for my measurements class. It was pretty funny. We basically had to make a little cart for a wind tunnel to test for drag, and we had a pizza box that had a football player's face on it. I don't know if you know J.J. Watt, and so we ended up just pasting his face right on the front of the cart, and because we figured if we had a scary linebacker on the front, then it would sort of deter the wind from getting in the way of the cart. Um, Also, I've been working on some vector loop equations that I had to solve for acceleration. So if you know anything about that, you know they're pretty strenuous. And I actually had a 10 question homework assignment the other day that took me 7 hours to complete, and I was not done with the last question when I had to go to class. So it's been a little rough school wise, but I'm getting by, and I'm not here to complain about school. I'm here to explain a couple topics, and I do have some topics for today. I did promise that I would stream this weekend because I didn't get to last weekend, and so I have some interesting things to talk about today. And so the first one is going to be a little bit of a social topic in terms of sort of a subjective nature of things and whether or not it's wrong to think in that way. And also, I have a mystery topic that I'm going to leave all further details on until the time comes. So, um, without having much more to say on my projects as they stand, I will be moving into my first topic. So, I'm going to switch the screen here. All right, so as you can see, I got my paint window up, so you know things are going down. So today I want to talk to you about what I am labeling sort of maybe subjective attractiveness, but in the realm of racism. So this is something that's an interesting idea, and it's something that I'm not necessarily taking a stance on. Well, I guess I will give my stance at the end, but I want to hear your feedback on this because it's something that is definitely debatable. It is controversial. So the idea that I guess I'll put it out on the table is that when people consider attractiveness, and I have done videos on attractiveness in the past, I'll put a link to it. When people consider what they find attractive in a possible partner, a lot of times race does come into play. And it becomes a question of whether this is a matter uh, of actually being attracted to specific features of a person or being attracted to a race in general. And so obviously it's bad as a society to generalize things. So for this, I'm going to be using the most arbitrary thing I can think of possible, and I'm going to be talking about shapes. Because everyone knows we're not talking about this or this. We're talking about this. So, in this metaphor, I will be talking about this. And so I am theoretically attracted to this circular shape. Now, this is not to say that that the other shapes are problematic. Just because this shape is a square and just because this shape is a triangle doesn't mean that they are not attractive shapes. Perhaps I personally am not attracted to corners, but there are many things that the other shapes are good are known for, are good at doing. Triangles are very strong shapes. They tend to be relatively stable in terms of structures. Squares are very convenient in terms of building structures because they are the same length on either side. They're very symmetrical, which can be a very attractive feature. Symmetry tends to be very attractive. And so, but this isn't the idea at hand. So the question is, the I have to question the reasoning that I have for being attracted to this shape. And so I need to ask that then, am I attracted to circles because they are circles? Or am I attracted to circles because of the individual traits that build up a circle? A circle is symmetrical in infinite planes of existence, or sorry, yeah, I guess that's true. Infinitely many planes can be put through the center of a circle, and every single plane will create symmetry. This is not true for squares, although there are many planes of symmetry. There are not infinite. So this is an advantage that circles have in that realm. Um, there's also symmetry in triangles, especially equilateral triangles. But uh, this is this is not enough in my eyes. So perhaps I consider circles to be favorable in this category, and also maybe I do not put as much emphasis in terms of my psychological attraction in the realm of corners. Maybe I want smooth surfaces that are not necessarily abrupt changes. So now this is something that is interesting because most people would say that it's somewhat demeaning to pick out specific traits like corners or edges to say that these traits are desirable, because then that tends to put down the entire groups of shapes that perhaps do have many edges and many corners. But I think that as an individual, it's not necessarily a choice that you are attracted to an individual feature. And so we have to start thinking about the origins of these attractions. And so perhaps there is a reason that I am attracted to symmetry. Perhaps I was raised in a society that puts symmetry up on a pedestal for claiming that it is the one trait that is necessary. Perhaps in a different society across some sort of arbitrarily shaped body of water, there is another society that would tend to praise corners as the cornerstone of attraction. So I think that there is definitely some subjectivity, there is some individuality to this, because when you look at attraction, you have to think about it on a micro scale. Now, there will always be statistics that can grasp things from a macro scale, because when it comes to things like marketing, when it comes to using demographics, if you want to cater to a certain demographic, then you need to find what the general average for that demographic tends to find attractive. And this is very powerful in terms of a macro scale. But when talking to an individual, you can't act as if that individual and another individual of similar characteristics are attracted to the same thing, because there are many different factors. There's one, genetics. There is two, upraising, and there are many different factors based off of what role models they had, what other shapes they hang out with. So I think in the end, everything comes down to the baseline of nature versus nurture. And this is a common question of psychology, but it is something that is in almost everything we can think of. Whether or not the reasons that we desire something are something that is innate in our person, or if that is something that has been raised into us by the people we are surrounded with. So Now, I want to raise the question in terms of this of whether it is wrong to claim that you only like circles. Um, because perhaps that is simply what you are attracted to in terms of your nature. And so, but it's also hard to determine whether it is your nature that is creating this attraction or whether this attraction has been built up by the society you live in. And so this goes back to something I was talking about with politics, is that you have to constantly question how you feel and question why you are doing things. If you're doing something for a very long time, then it may seem like you have to continue doing that, but that's never the case. Now, obviously, if something has been working for a long time, there's reason to believe that it will continue to work. But there's also always the possibility that there's a better option out there. So um, I think that my standpoint on this, and if anyone has input they'd like to add on it, um, feel free to post that in the chat. But my standpoint on this is that it's okay to claim that you like a particular shape over another shape, as long as that is backed by some reasoning in terms of liking particular features over the other. Because obviously, attraction tends to be somewhat selective, and there's a reason for that. There's also natural selection, which tends to show that um, people who are generally attractive tend to be, I guess, healthier in the eyes of natural selection. But that's not necessarily true in most cases. So it's a little bit of back and forth in that realm. And so this is something that I think is somewhat debatable, and uh, I would love to hear your input on it. I don't have too much more to say on this, but this has been something I've been tossing around for a very long time because it is an interesting concept to see if particular groups of people tend to uh, be more attracted to other groups of people, or in this case, shapes, simply because they are those shapes. Um, and to question whether that's a wrong thing, or, but at the same time, you have to understand that there is always the difference between macro scale and micro scale. And in the micro scale, you can never assume that an individual will follow the trend. Humans are the epitome of randomness. So that's the general topic for attractive racism. I don't have too much more I want to talk about on that topic, but if there are any questions or other side notes you want me to further talk upon, please post that in the chat, even if I've moved on to other topics, and I will address them later in the stream. So I'm going to clean things up and move into my second topic, which is the mystery topic. So I will be right back. Okay, so I'm going to be moving into my second topic, and I did see a comment about the previous topic saying that people like exotic shapes. I would agree with that. Um, if you didn't catch the previous topic, then you can either back up in the stream or uh, go check out the other video if you're watching this later. So my second topic is something that's a little bit less abstract. So let's say that you're pulling up to an intersection, right? And so you're coming up, and perhaps you're in the right turn lane. So there's an arrow like this, and you look up, and there's a traffic light. Now, this traffic light has three lights on it, and so um, the top one, I guess this is somewhat different in different states, whether the top one is red or the bottom one is red. But I believe in my case that the top one is red. If this top light has a big red arrow on it, that means that you can't turn to the right while that is lit up. Some people think that because there is a red light and they're turning right, if there is no cars going in this direction, they have free reign to turn right whenever they feel like it. But this is not true because a red arrow literally translates into English as do not turn right. So it's just some food for thought. There is a highway exit off of I-4 that has one of these mystical right arrows that are red, and people tend to think that they don't really matter. So I just figured I would mention that. So I'm going to be moving on to my third and final topic, which is my random drawing. So I hope you've enjoyed the stream so far. I have my random word sheet here, and I am going to clean up the board here and get my random number generator set up. So if you haven't seen this before, basically what I'm doing is I have a sheet with 25 different words in 3 different columns. So that's a total of 75 words. And so there are nouns, verbs, and enhancers, so adjectives or adverbs. And so I'm going to pick 3 random numbers. The first one is 6, which we've used before. The first one is 7, which we've used before. The first one is 23, which is fence. The second number is 25, which is the verb affect with an A. The third number is 14, which is rough. So we have the words fence, rough, and affect. So we need to think of how these words work together to form a bigger picture, and then we will draw that picture. So obviously it's not too uncommon to think of a rough fence, but perhaps this we have to incorporate the word affect. So let's think of things that could be affected. You could have an affected word. I see a question in the chat asking how I chose those 25 words. I chose them at random just by the first words that came to my head. I did have a period of time where I was asking for suggestions. I did not get any suggestions. So if you have any suggestions for random words, I will use them on the next sheet. We do have a decent amount of words on here, so I will let you know when I'm getting ready to make another sheet of words. So let's say that you had a town, perhaps. So you'll have some houses and probably 3-dimensional houses. Usually houses are somewhat 3-dimensional. And then maybe some skyscrapers and perhaps a park area over here. And this park might have a small pond with a nice little bridge over it. And oh yeah, there's a bunch of zombies. And so these zombies, I'm just gonna pick lime green because that seems like a wonderful zombie color. So there's a couple zombies in the park. And so what happens is that when you have a zombie outbreak, you need to create a perimeter that you can defend. So this perimeter would usually be some sort of fence, and this fence would go around the affected area. So we're gonna enhance this fence a little bit, get some 3 dimension to it, and so this fence, I believe by the squiggly line I've drawn, is a barbed wire fence, which I would assume would be very rough, especially if you were to rub your hand across it. So we have our chain link fence, which is the natural predator to zombies, and our barbed wire, which is a good defense, especially to something that is not very intelligent. Something that is trying to eat brains obviously does not have many of its own, so they are purely instinctual creatures and would not fend very well against a barbed wire fence. So we have our zombies, we have our fence that is rough, surrounding the affected area. And so this is uh, a fairly simple drawing, but there are some context because there's obviously places of residence here, and it's possible that there is one person that is not a zombie. Now, it would be bad for this person to assume that all zombies are bad and not friendly, but at the same time, they would need to take precautions because, on a macro scale, most zombies are trying to eat your brains. So, this person would probably have to act as it is um, to trick the instinctual zombies into thinking it is part of the pack. Now, zombies are definitely pack creatures. I watched a documentary. I believe it was Greatest Warriors or something on Spike TV, the owner of all documentaries. They had a interesting discussion on whether a zombie would win against a vampire, but they agreed that zombies work in packs. So there was 100 zombies versus, I believe, 3 vampires, and it was kind of a tie. Spoiler alert. But we can kind of clean up our picture here. Hopefully, nope, I did not. I can just add some little finishing touches here and there to make this look a little better. And then we will call the stream quits. But like I said, if there's any questions, this has been somewhat of a short stream, so I'm very open to answering anything, actually. It doesn't have to be on the topics I've been talking about. Um, and I guess I can just talk about things in general. I know UCF won their football game that they played yesterday. My team, the Panthers, in the NFL did not play this week, so I consider that a win since they've been doing pretty bad. Um, and um, Also, I got a haircut. You probably noticed that. So I look a little bit different. I'm assuming I will look a little bit more different next weekend, but I'll leave that as something to see. Um, and so yeah, I've been realizing that junior year of college is one of the tougher ones. Just with the junior year engineering classes, they tend to be pretty rigorous. Um, but I'm getting by, just trying to continue to learn and continue um, to teach, I guess, because I'm doing this. So this is something where I want to build a community that the community forces me to continue to learn by attempting to describe things to everyone else. So I think we have a complete picture here. It's not very detailed, but I think it gets the point across. We have a affected area surrounded by a rough fence. So I want to thank you guys for watching. This has been pretty short, but I didn't want to drag on the topics if I didn't have too much more to talk about. So I do plan on streaming on Wednesday, and hopefully by then I'll have some work done on the AI, but no promises. I know that Tuesday I am going back to my hometown, so I don't know that I'd be able to work on it then. And tomorrow I do have some homework I need to work on in my free time while I'm on campus. So perhaps Wednesday on campus I might be able to get some work done. But other than that, like I said, no promises. So um, I'm going to be signing off, seeing as there's not any extra questions. But like I said, I want to thank you guys for watching if you've been watching up to this point, and I will see you on Wednesday.